What's going on, my facetteers? It's your boy DeMarquise, and we are back with another episode of the Life of a Multifacet. It's a little bit later here on my end. It's about close to 11 p.m., but that's really not too bad. I'm probably gonna be up for a minute because I ended up taking like an extended nap, but definitely wanted to come on and give another podcast episode per usual. If you're not following me on social media, make sure you check out my main page on Instagram, that man Marco. My food page is matching up with Marco. Both of those are also the same on TikTok, which we're ramping up the content on there. And my YouTube page is the multifacets of Demarcus. And for today's episode, I really want to talk about just investing time into yourself and just what that actually looks like. And I'll share things about me and why I'm happy and proud of the way that I've moved, even when we may not have a certain line of direction. And then also like why it should be a bigger topic of discussion versus like the broad way in which it's kind of talked about on social media is more so a hype thing or a clout thing. And so we'll go ahead and dive right into it. When I think about as far as for my life, being 29, I've been a adult less years than I've actually been a child. When we think about as far as I'm 29 and I've been um, 29 minus 18 is what 11. So I've been an adult for 11 years. So that means that as far as me learning things and me having experiences, I'm going to have way less experience in being an adult. But that shouldn't stop you or anyone from being able to actually have experiences. And oftentimes, I'm someone that definitely in the past has waited on perfect times in a sense to do certain things or waiting for that certain type of moment. But you realize time will pass you by if you don't actually get on things pretty early, or if you don't push yourself to maybe go in certain types of directions or try certain things that may be a bit uncomfortable. And I know this can kind of be a reoccurring thing when I talk about like hobbies, building confidence and stuff like that, because it all comes together in how you build as an individual. And oftentimes, especially for us, I guess you could still say young adults because, like I said, 11 years in, if you've been less years of an adult than you have as a child, I feel like you're still a young adult. But we'll say young to just regular adult. Oftentimes, whenever you're having conversations with elders, you hear it from a perspective of where it may seem like your life is meant to be lived whenever you've reached a certain type of income status or whenever you've had a family, all that type of stuff. And I'm coming here to say that I disagree heavily because one thing that I've noticed, especially investing time into myself and really putting myself at the the forefront of my life, is that life just feels so bittersweet and it feels as if I'm always evolving because I do invest into myself. And I feel that even when it comes to going through certain obstacles, those obstacles usually seem very worth it because it allows me to be able to go into a different direction, or allows me to be able to experience something or unlock something about myself I may have never thought about or would initially have done. And kind of going back to the elders, when you think about for certain folks, it's like go to work and you just constantly work and take care of your family. But a lot of times there's nothing in there that talks about like the eye piece. Even folks that may not necessarily have families, it's always going to work and then just getting money, but there's nothing that you're doing to be able to utilize that money and to invest it. And I'm not even saying going to the stock markets or going to any type of financial institution. I'm talking about just for yourself. When we think about paid time off, this is something that oftentimes where I won't say you fully get shunned, but you can kind of like, for some elders, it's like, oh wow, this person's taking off a good amount of times, but you earned that time. And I've realized that like a lot of our elders, they've given so much time to somebody else's dreams, somebody else's goals, somebody else's institution, somebody else's platforms, but they haven't invested into themselves, which you're living for you. And as you continue to have like a family and stuff like that, and you have a spouse, you're obviously going to be living for them as well. But the main person that you're on this earth for is you. And you're living through experiences, and then if you believe in a higher power, you're living for and through God as well. When we think about as far as when you get up every single day, we think about as far as you having experiences, you being happy, that is solely based on you. And Oftentimes we have way more time in the day than we truly realize, or there are going to be moments where we have more time than we realize. Think about how much time that you actually have in your day. I've talked about this before, like the 168 hours in a day. When I was reading the book from, check my other episodes, when I was reading the book from the Garrity 4.0, and that always helped to change my perspective on what time looked like, because that allowed me to stop saying that I'm too busy or I don't have enough time for this and that, and more so shift to the thinking or saying of this isn't a priority for me. Because oftentimes when I reflect back on my life, I'm someone that's put like a lot of time into myself, and I continue to invest a lot of time into me. But there have been moments to where I would say I didn't have time, or I can't do this, I can't do that, because I didn't understand and grasp the understanding of what time looked like for me. And also too, when it came to prioritization and being organized, that's something that um, I had always struggled with, because spontaneity was a big part of my life, but it's also too um, not putting things for me as a priority. It's more so thing if I had to be at class or go to a meeting, like those things were the priority. But when I think about as far as for my life, I started to really change that, because I realized that experience, adventures, life, I would say, life. Um, how can I say this? Yeah, life experiences, like that would be something where I realized that it was way more than just putting in putting in work all the time. And I would say like I first started to realize that when I was working at Sprint. So like during my time, I think I started at Sprint like 2016. So that was around when I was 20, 21 years old. And so for me, you got to think like for my family, we didn't really go on a whole lot of vacations and stuff like that. So as far as traveling and what that looked like that was kind of foreign to me, because we didn't have it. My family, like it wasn't something that was like we're always getting together. We didn't really have like big family reunions and stuff all the time. We've had a couple, but like that's something that's starting to be in play now. And we think about as far as cousins and stuff get together. All my cousins are older, and they were, maybe on like my mom's side of the family, there was a few cousins that I got with, but it wasn't like a all the time type of thing. And traveling wasn't something that my family was able to consistently do, because we didn't have the funds to do it. And so when it came to, I mean, I would even say a bit before that, like my first kind of traveling experiences was when I was working IT in college, but I didn't really have a whole lot of money to spend there. So I kind of say like I was going to like on a spring break trip to Fort Lauderdale, and then I went to where else did I go to? Yes, I went on to Fort Lauderdale, and then really my junior year when I ended up going to Cancun, and just that whole sprint experience that opened up a door for me, because then I had a good amount of money. I was making for probably like 35 to 40 G's in college, with that whole summer and everything like that. And that put it in perspective for me differently. Why? Because I was grinding, but I also realized that for even the money that I was making as a college student and how much effort and time that I was putting in, I was going to school and everything like that. But I wanted to be able to learn how to get away. I wanted to be able to learn how to have experiences and not feel that I was exchanging my time or exchanging my energy just for money. Because if I'm going in and I'm hustling and busting every single day, there's got to be some point that I get to where I say, DeMarcus, what are you doing this for? Because you can stack up money all day, you can pay off debts, you can pay off bills, all that type of stuff. But if you're not really utilizing it for yourself, what are you truly doing? And that's where I started to really understand the value of being able to have experiences. And I was going on trips with friends, I was going to different states, and then I was being able to even go out as a college student and be able to have finances, be able to buy things for myself, being able to hell, actually, even the summer before that, when I was working manufacturing and working 80 plus hours a week, like I finally had the chance to be able to understand what it felt to buy, speakers for my car, buy rims. I had some decent hubcaps on there, you know what I'm saying? Buy my own stereos. And so those experiences allowed me to understand what it meant to be able to give time for me. But over as time continued to progress, I wanted to be able to have experiences where I would need to take time away from work, but I realized that like if I'm going to take time away, then I have to still balance my schedule where I could be able to still put in work while I was gone. So what I meant was If I'm going to take a trip and go see some friends or go to a different location or have some fun, then that means I got to come back to work and I got to put in even more grind. I got to make sure referrals and stuff are lined up. There's got to be a way, which, especially within sales, that I'm kind of keeping myself afloat. It's different if you have a job that isn't in sales where you're just going in, you're doing the same work each and every day. Let's say blue collar work, for instance. That's going to be different because all you're doing is coming in and doing the same job that you know that you should be doing, or that you're tasked to do. But if you're stacking the PTO days up, that's going to be even easier because you're not coming in feeling as if you got to do something or you got to go out and like convince people to buy something. Like you're going in knowing what you got to do. So the only thing that you're really playing is the mental game of saying, I got to go back to work. But the whole point is that when I started to be able to see what it looked like to feel excited, to be able to invest into myself, that was a great thing. Now that was just as far as when you talk about vacations and being able to spend money on myself. When I think about as far as like resources, when I think about as far as like conventions, when I think about let's say conferences, um, ebooks, buying all that type of stuff, like purchasing resources or utilizing resources, this is something that I'm super excited or super happy that I was able to do because that really gave me a chance to be able to see how it feels to be able to have experiences that you don't have to pay for, that allowed me to be able to meet and mingle with people and see how networking can really help you to level yourself up, even if you stay connected with certain people or not. And it allowed me to be able to open up a different side of my brain where I could see how people were intellectually thinking, how people were able to build partnerships and relationships outside of just from a social perspective of going out or just having fun. Those experiences really helped me to shape myself and how I can handle myself professionally. But more importantly, it allowed me to be able to understand how I can even open up those experiences that I was talking about earlier to a different level. For instance, when I was in high school, when I was going to different events on college campuses and they were having like free dinners, like you're having these eloquent type of dinners where you're finally sitting at a table where you get a chance to eat like 4 or 5 star food made by chefs. A lot of times you could take those things for granted, but I'm sitting there thinking like, wow, I get this type of experience, and then you're not realizing until later that many people may not ever have that until they actually go and spend money out at a high-dollar restaurant. But early on, like there were experiences where I got to go to EKU with the black program that I was in high school, and I got a chance to be able to sit and be a part of pre-college programs. So I'm sitting there, and you have your butter knives, your salad, your bread knives. You have your salad forks and your entree forks, and you're dressing up nice, but then you're learning how it feels. And so when I think about as far as just even myself as a black man, these things were great because it allowed me to be able to have experiences where I can be able to be in high dollar rooms or what felt as high quality rooms without even having to spend my own money or having to be able to build some type of crazy connections. And that's part of investing in yourself because when you're in those rooms, you learn how people are having conversations. You also learn too that it's not any type of room where, especially as a black person, our people can't be in. You just have to be able to learn about different types of opportunities that most people may not know about. But it comes to you putting yourself out there and saying, "Hey, I'm willing to do this." When I was in college, and there was different opportunities to speak, different opportunities to be a part of organizations and lead. I made sure that I allowed myself to do that because I knew for a fact if I didn't proceed forward with some of these things, I would look back and be like, man, I didn't invest my time properly. But I'm super happy now that I did because when I see the man that I've shaped into, all of those experiences allowed me to be confident in who I was. It allowed me to be able to open up more because, as I talked about, being a shy person growing up, also when you're shy, but then you feel as if you don't have certain environments to speak in, you got to be able to find ways that allow you to be able to bring out your best self. And all those things shape me. And so when I think about as far as investing in me, I've had to learn to give myself a lot more credit. And now at this point, like I'm definitely giving myself credit because when I think about experiences and things that I've had, it's not waiting on certain moments. It's really putting myself at the forefront and allowing myself to push forward, but being okay with what comes with the result of me trying something new. And that is a beautiful type of fulfillment. And then that later allows you to be able to do things for yourself when it comes to if you want to try to start a business or start a brand. Then you're able to see like how, based on what I'm doing, I know how I feel. And I love the way in which I'm being able to learn stuff, even if it may be uncomfortable. But how can I share these experiences with others? That's why I go on social media, share my daily thoughts. That's why I share experiences in New York, was sharing tons of experiences when I was in college, all these times where I've traveled and stuff like that, putting other people on, opportunities where I've been able to get work, where I've been able to um, do certain things in my life. I've always been a person that wasn't a gatekeeper and felt like I couldn't share it because why would I just keep it for me when there's other people as well that could benefit from this? So I've always been someone that has pushed others around me to invest in themselves as well. Now, when we think about even as far as investing in itself, if I can go out here and spend tons of money on all these different types of products, on all this unnecessary type of stuff, tons of food eaten out, why can't I spend that on myself? And so I know for me, like I'm someone that I enjoy eating out, even though I'm a chef, even though I love to cook and bake. But at the same time, I had to realize for myself, you know what, DeMarcus, if this is something that you enjoy doing, why not put that into your own craft? You know, like if you're gonna spend all this money out here, hey, save some money where you can actually spend it on yourself and your craft, so you can use that as a tester. Hey, you know what I'm saying? Like, how are you going to be able to get better with your craft if you're not trying different types of meals, different types of steaks, lamb chops, different types of seafood stuff, different types of healthy, low carb stuff. But you've got to learn, you got to put time into cooking that for yourself because why not? That's part of your brand. Also, too, hey, you may say, you know what? I got a little bit extra money. Let me try something with my brand. Let me try to invest in a t-shirt machine. Let me try to invest in a I don't know, a recipe book, something that I can utilize because oftentimes we feel as if convenience is the best thing, but it's sometimes convenience can get us in this type of complacent type of state. And we don't even realize how sometimes the gestures and areas that we may be so locked into, we don't even realize that sometimes we can be doing ourselves a disservice. And oftentimes when I think about as much as I'm eating out, it's like, hey, if I got some extra money, I gotta be able to change my mindset to say I can't just be going out on an eating out spree for 3 or 4 months. Like something's got to stop there. And I said, DeMarcus, you got to be able to invest into yourself because there may be a moment to where you're like, man, I wish I had some extra money where I can be able to do a mashup. But it's different if you're at a financial point, which I have been where things can be really, really slow. But I always look at it like if I can give my money to everybody else, why would I not give that to me? That's just a small example on the branding side. Let's talk about timing. If I can go out and watch everybody else's YouTube videos, if I can go out and go to everybody else's events, well, I can be crafting in the background. I can be editing my own videos. I can be taking time to record myself. Because at the end of the day, when we think about as far as finding your purpose and finding something that you stand for, if you're someone that's always focused on what everybody else is doing and you put time into everybody else, again, how do you put time into you? And so oftentimes we're so um, focused on trying to have an experience that we don't even realize how valuable we are and what we bring to an experience. We don't even realize that we do experience at times. And there's a good amount of people out there that may not be because they never put time into themselves, but you have to look at it and say, okay, am I truly missing something by going to this party? If I don't go to this party, is it just because of other reasons outside of me not wanting to go? Or if I just choose not to go, well, what am I doing in replace of that? Hey, there's gonna be some weekends where you just say I want to chill, but there's also gonna be time where you look and say, man, I should have been editing this, or I should have been putting some time into me here. But you had that time when you decided to not go to that party. But you felt as if that what you were going to replace for that party, that thing that you were going to do wasn't as valuable enough. But you got to see that it is, because at the end of the day, it might not show up in the short term, but long term, that's something you can be proud of. And I've started to be able to look at my life like that more over time, where it's like, okay, DeMarcus, you say you don't have enough time, but are you utilizing that time? You chose not to go here, but or you chose not to do this thing. Invest more time into yourself. Also, something I was going to kind of bring up is investing money in different places. Hey, even when you're completely broke, you got to look at it as what were you doing before with your money and what are you doing now? We have times we're going to go through debts, financial crises, and stuff like that. Listen, I'm someone that's been in it. I'm someone that's been in it, that's lived it. I'm someone that knows what that looks like. But I also look at it like this: there has been moments where I was doing really well. There's moments where I was doing way better than others. But and when I say way better than others, I'm not saying necessarily people. I mean, you could throw that in there, but I'm saying like moments in my life where I was doing better than other points in my life. I've always made it a point to be able to not only just save my money, but learn how to be able to invest that, because I know that when I'm investing that money, even into financial institutions, that's going to be able to help me in the long run. I've told my friends about investing in credit. Hey, I've had times where my credit has been shot, even after telling people that. But it's the point of still investing in yourself to know how you can be able to get back on your feet. See, oftentimes, again, we wait for that perfect type of moment. I say to myself, DeMarcus, you shouldn't feel a type of way by having conversation with your friends about investing in credit, even if there may be points in your life to where that goes downhill. Why? Because you're not doing it trying to prove to people, or you're not doing it to try to brag or anything like that. You're doing it to try to help people. But when you get back on top, you're going to use those same methods and you're going to keep up that same energy. You're going to be able to do it for yourself. That's why when I think about as far as investing, I started to do that towards the end of college. And there's still times if I have like a little bit of money in the past where I would invest. And so at times like where um, things have changed in regards to how it's been for me when it comes to work and just where I'm at in my life, I'm not able to invest at the moment. But by constantly reading the charts, by seeing the investments and stuff that I did have, that stuff is still going to go up. Why? Because I looked at it for the long term, not the short term. I wasn't looking at it just to say, let me just invest now, let me get a quick $100 here, and then I can utilize that for later. No, I always had a plan in my mind that says, we're going to let some things work even when life may not be flowing in the way that we want to, but that's still investing in yourself. I still got stocks and investments that are flowing right now. They had times where they was hitting the bottom of the bottom, even when at times where I've been doing where life has just been slapping me in the face. But it's also about continuing to find other ways to be able to lock yourself in where you're not so focused on that. If I'm looking at my stocks every single day, it's gonna mess my head up. But if I knew that I invested in myself and I know that I'm taking time in order to really align myself in certain type of ways, I'm going to know that at the end of the day, if I keep doing my work on the outside, when I come back to this, I'm going to be happy because I knew that I put time into that. I knew that there was moments where I had money. I know that there's moments where I have money coming. So why not at least invest a little bit into my future? Why not put some into a investment account versus just leaving it into my bank? What is a little $20 to $30 going to hurt me, especially if you're doing pretty well, or even if you are still on the up and up? Just investing a little bit is going to be something that's going to help you to invest into your future. Why? Because later down the line, if it comes a point to where you really need it, or it comes to a point to where you're trying to get started in regards to increasing your finances, you already started. So the whole premise of this is like, I went into talking about just investing in myself when it came to college and when it came to going to events and everything. And now I'm talking about the finances because all of these things are moments in life where people say, I have to wait to a certain type of a period of time. I gotta wait on a certain type of moment. You never know how much $5 a day can help you. And there's so many people, like even for me, where it's been up and down with work and I've had to take on some side jobs. Hey, there's no reason why when I have a steady job going that I can't at least invest $5 a day. Even when I was just doing some security work a couple months ago, I still can invest $5 a day. And I would even see sometimes when I was doing a little bit of crypto, which I'm not the biggest on crypto. That's a whole nother conversation. I'm more stock market. But I was even seeing where when I was adding in $5 a day, $10 a day, there was many times where I didn't even see that money, like I didn't even see it necessarily go into the account unless I looked into the account, because oftentimes when you have subscriptions and stuff like that, you're just seeing that be deducted from your account anyways. What is a $5 to $10 going to do, especially when you're already putting it on BS anyways? So this is what I talk about, like when you look forward at your life and then you also look back, you'll be proud of yourself if you take those small steps. And if you're somebody that says, you know what, I haven't really invested on myself, I haven't really worked on myself, what is it going to hurt you to look at some free events online, take a little bit of money to invest in your brand, go to an event to where it's something that aligns with your heart and your mind, take $5 to $10 and put it into an account where you know with the resources we have nowadays, you know with the conversations that people have that investing is important. So why not put $5 to $10 into a brokerage account and letting that grow? Oftentimes people want to talk so much about I didn't have the time or waiting for the perfect time that they never start. And I'm someone that is proud to say that I've started many times. I've kept going many times. I've taken L's many times, but I can look back and say that the W's that I've had from just moving forward in life and wanting to bet on me or allowing myself to have experiences, I've had way more W's and will have way more W's than what a L will look like in life. And oftentimes the L's that we see in life are going to be broadcasted as just like crazy, but that's just because of how the world works. If you lose a job, if you go broke, like the L is going to be like, oh, this person's broke. They don't have any type of money. But the W could be you really going to all these free events. You going out networking. You being able to go to be in places that are going to make you feel more happy and fulfilled than even maybe when you have money. But you've got to be someone that steps forward and allows yourself to stay in that, to step into that space. And I'm super grateful that I've been able to do that. But it's not me just being able to. I pushed myself and made sure that I was doing that for myself. Was taking PTO from jobs. Hell, there was times where I was asking it to get off when I was working a sprint when I didn't even really have the time. But it's important to make sure that we're investing in us because DeMarcus always says, "Why do I want to put so much time in investing into everybody else's dreams?" Investments into everybody else's brands and stuff like that. I got to put some time into myself, and I realized that early on. Like I said, when I was working, when I was starting to really, like I said, that summer working in the manufacturing plant, and then when I started to work at Sprint, even like when I was IT was like it was on campus. When I started working at Sprint was when I was really saying like, hey man, I can keep going hard and hard and hard, but I got to start investing into me because I'm learning to being in spaces where people are sharing about them going on trips and sharing about them being able to have experiences. And once I was stepping into rooms and I started to see and kind of chime in on conversations and where people were doing things different than what I had seen before, then I learned that it couldn't be impossible because there's other people out here doing it. And oftentimes, I'll lastly say this: people want to make excuses. People want to talk about what they don't have. Always want to make it seem like it's this negative thing or whatever. Man, you got to be someone that wants to change. But oftentimes, people don't want to put their best foot forward or try anything new, and they rather stay complacent. I'm not someone that has ever wanted to be like that because for me and how my mind works, I need to understand the details. I have to have depth in what's going on. You can't tell me that if somebody's got a certain amount of money or if they've been able to have some time off, like why they can't go on a small weekend trip. Because then you look at people's lives and you say, what's stopping you from actually doing that? Especially when you get to a point to where you have see that's the thing with life. Oftentimes what I've learned and one of the biggest things that I've seen from elders is that they'll tell you why they can't do something. They'll tell you, I'll give you all these details for why something didn't happen or what direction something's going. But then when they get what they need or they get something that they talk about, then you're like, okay, what happened? And you say you didn't have money, but then now you say things are paid off. Now you talk about like life is better for you, but now what's stopping you? Hey, you said that this is what you needed. This is where you needed to be. This is what had to happen for you to get there. But what stopped you now? And I realized for myself a while back and at a young age that okay, you can't talk the talk. You got to walk the walk because the more that you keep talking, the world's going to show that to you. God's going to reveal that to you. You say that hey, you want to be at a point to where you can do these things and do that things, but there's been many moments where you decided to not move forward. You decided to stay in your comfort zone, but it was easier for you than challenging yourself because challenging yourself would expose things about you that you may not have been ready for. But what's wrong with that? Sometimes we need that. Sometimes you may go into a room where it feels uncomfortable. You may be a bit underdressed, but that teaches you how to be able to show up the next time. And you may realize that you're more eloquent than the people that's in the room. Just because you're underdressed, you just may not have been in a room that allowed you to understand what it means to be dressed for the occasion. But the next time, you're going to be someone that's memorable. You might even be someone that's memorable there because people's like, that person was just kind of crazy, but the conversation was great. That person was dressed a bit off, but they just didn't know. But The conversation I had with him was so great. That DeMarcus guy was just something about him. So next time I come in, wow, DeMarcus, like our conversation was great, but like you way better dressed than everybody here now. Like, how's life going for you? Life's kind of just it's been a little bit up and down, still in between certain things. You know what? Like, I want to invite you to this. The next time something happens, have you thought about doing this for yourself? And that's when you start having those type of conversations. But oftentimes, people don't want to look into that mirror, as I keep saying. People don't want to reflect, and it's uncomfortable when things about you that you find as insecurities or things that you find about you that you're not putting as much time into gets exposed. And we have to have that for ourselves. Like, I've had to look into the mirror many times. I've had to learn to hold myself accountable because there's many times where time was passing by, and I had to say to myself, like DeMarcus, even when it came to weight, I said, man, we got to invest time into that, because trying to do these 30-day fast or 30-day diets and all that, like, you're trying to just do that without doing the other work. You're not investing into, and when I say invested, it's not even just spending money. You're not investing time into truly getting your mindset right, but then trying to cook different foods like consistently. You're not investing into like not going to certain things and removing certain stuff from your plate. I did this in New York City and have lost all the weight that I had. In New York City, where there's constant events going, but one thing I realized is by showing up all the time for me and constantly putting myself at the forefront and valuing me, FOMO isn't something that exists on a high level at all for me. And that's great because I've not always, I've learned to get to a point to where I can truly put myself at the forefront of any experience. So I don't feel like I'm missing out. There's rarely times where I feel like I'm missing out. Why? Because I know the trade-off that I'm getting from not showing up. If there's a reason why I can't, there's a reason why I can show up for me. So why would I focus so much on something that I wasn't able to do when even if I can't get to that, there's so many things that I can do. That's the mindset that's different. I'm not focused on, man, I couldn't go to this event, I couldn't go to that. Even if people say, man, this was very, very dope, man, I might have a little bit in me that says, man, that would have been kind of nice to get to. But then at the same time, when I look at all the things that I want to focus on and where I'm trying to get to in life, I'm going to be focused on not going to that event if I'm not putting time into me. But if I'm putting time into me and I'm saying, you know what, we're going to edit a video today. We're going to record a video. You know what? We're going to see where our stocks is going. We're going to go on YouTube and we're going to research how to create a newsletter, how to build our brands further. You know what? We're actually going to go to the gym and we're not going to eat as much today, or hey, we may cook something new that could help us to be able to get further down on our weight. If I'm doing that, ain't no way I can even really, I can really there's no way I could even really have FOMO. I'm going to really have FOMO. Why? Because I'm putting so much time into me that by doing this, what I'm doing over here for me, I'm going to be able to show up at that next event even more dope. So how can I have FOMO if I'm putting it to me? That event, I can go, I'm going on the rant. I can go to any event and get anything, get any type of experience. But there's nothing in a sense that I can get from there that I can't get a greater result if I'm doing for me at home or away from that event. That may not make sense to people, but there's nothing I can go from. I can get an opportunity. I can go in whatever at a networking event. Yeah, there's a time where you can get a certain type of partnership, money or whatever. But I guarantee if you're putting time into yourself a lot of the time, you're not going to feel as you're missing out, because then there's going to be those times where you go to those events, you go to those conventions, or you're in the certain types of rooms and you feel prepared. See, oftentimes we will want to keep being a part of something, but then we feel underprepared. We feel as if we're not as confident, but we had all the time in the world to be able to work on ourselves outside of that. But it's like, what are you doing with your time? You ain't got to spend all this crazy amount of time. You ain't got to sit there and be doing all these different type of reps, go through a military type of routine and all that. It's just utilizing some of your time the same way as if it's utilizing some of your money. When you're investing, start with $5 a day. You can get partial shares in companies. If it's trying to do a hobby, start with 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day. You ain't got to sit there and build a full beat out. First, you start with just creating something that just sounds pretty decent and then build off that. If you're someone that's trying to cook, like, you ain't got to sit there and start a crazy business or have the whole world buying your food at once. Hey, maybe you trying something for yourself and asking a neighbor to try it, or creating something for yourself and asking a neighbor to try it. Even if it's working out, it ain't got to be you sitting here going crazy and doing 5 miles. It may just be you start with like a 30-minute half jog. You lifting some type of weights, but over time, you got to continue to put those reps in. And you got to be able to elevate. You got to be able to add more weight. You got to be able to challenge yourself and say, you know what, I'm going to do a bit more. But the biggest thing is most people don't ever even start. So this is a 35-minute episode. I didn't even expect it to be this long, but when I talk about as far as investing in myself and just investing in ourselves as human beings, like I love this topic, and it's something that I've been able to really embrace even more because a big part of me is learning to embrace those small wins. And that's super important because there's been many times where I would look back and say, man, I wasn't doing enough of this. Maybe I should be further in life here. I may feel like I'm a bit stuck, but oftentimes that's because you're just so focused on how society tries to drive the world. When you think about as far as putting yourself in alignment, you putting yourself at the forefront, you valuing yourself, at the end of the day, what could you really be unappreciative of when you're doing things that other people may have never taken the time to do. So I'm super proud of myself. I'm going to continue to put myself forward, push myself forward, but put myself in space to really be in control. And that's been a common theme of mine. It ain't just this time where I've lost weight, removed distractions and stuff like that. Because I've already been investing into myself. Now I'm prioritizing myself even more. So I can truly embrace some of those things that I may have not put as much time into before. But what's different is the Marcus has started way back. And even at the times where it felt uncomfortable, I allowed myself to still be present because I knew that there was a value within me. And you got to find that value within yourself. So start today. And this is part of our multifaceted lifestyle. There's multiple layers of you, there's multiple pieces of you that's valuable. You've got to find that within yourself. You can't just depend on something else to find that for you. You've got to be able to figure out what your value is. It ain't just social media, you creating little cute videos or whatever. Like, it's you truly diving into your spirit and figuring out, who am I? How do people see me? How do I show up? What makes me happy? And that's where I feel like the true beauties of life come in. So it's your boy DeMarcus, man. This is Life of Multifaceted. We are out of here. Hey.